Hey gang, it's Bryan from FXBilliards. Today I'm going to give you guys 20 things that you can fix about your game immediately. Now if we made a list of the mistakes that players make, it could be 2 hours long. But this is going to be a list of mistakes that players make that are fundamental mistakes, financial mistakes, educational mistakes, equipment mistakes that you can fix immediately. So we have entire videos on just about everything that I'm going to give you, so I'm not going to get into a lot of detail on each one just for the sake of time, so you can start thinking about improving right away. Number one, hitting the ball too hard. If you are slamming balls into pockets, if you're getting down on shots, and your shot sounds like that when it goes in the pocket, chances are you are hitting the ball too hard. If other amateur players are telling you that you hit the ball too hard, then you are out of control, because guess what? The majority of those people that are telling you that you hit the ball too hard also hit the ball too hard. That brings us to the next item. Closely related, but not the same thing, is you're shooting too fast. What do we mean by too fast? We mean your transition between shots. Let's talk about not even just the best. The fastest professional players in the world are taking about 15 seconds between shots. Why on earth would you be taking 10 seconds as an amateur player? Why on earth would the APA suggest 20 seconds and you guys are using 5 seconds of those? You will make better decisions. You will make more shots. You will be on the right side of the ball, immediately improving your game if you just slow down. And simple, easy to fix, fundamental mistake. Lifting your cue up on your shot. Look at the difference between these two shots. I'm playing the 4 ball in the corner pocket, and I'm playing the 6 ball in the corner pocket. Tell me what you see different about those two shots. Player B, the second shot on the 6 ball, his cue is up here in the air at the end of the shot. Guess what? If on a follow shot, a draw shot, a stop shot, a break shot, including your break, especially your break, because that's where most people break this down. They've got an open bridge and they're throwing the cue in the air. If your tip on your cue is anywhere more than a couple inches off the table. In fact, many will tell you your tip should be down on the table regardless of what shot you take. Your tip is moving while you're hitting the still cue ball, and you are making this game much more difficult. Learn to follow through and keep your tip down. And what do we mean by follow through? At the end of your stroke, you should have extended past the point of contact with that ball, depending on the shot and the speed you need to shoot it, somewhere between 3 and 8 inches. And if you're not following through, you're losing accuracy. If you learned pool when I learned pool, there was no YouTube. People didn't want to teach you anything. Pool was like a magic trick. One of the great things is that you have access to a lot of pool on YouTube and a lot of instruction. Some good, a lot bad, but you have access to a lot of information. The next item is something that is causing you issues, and you're getting it from watching the pros. That is, your bridge is probably too long. Now, some of you, your bridge is too short. You may be all the way up here, and you may be all the way back here. This is about 16 or 17 inches. It has nothing to do with where your pivot point is on your cue. I am sorry to break the news to you. It is about where your spot is. Now, higher in cues will allow you to get away with a little bit more as far as the length of your bridge. But in the meantime, your bridge length, start at 8 inches. You do not want to be more than 8 inches further back from the point where your bridge starts and that cue ball ends. But long bridges have to have something else that goes along with them. And that is a perfect stroke, or at least close to a perfect stroke. If you're watching this video, chances are your bridge is too long. Get your bridge hand about 8 inches away from the cue ball, and then work your way back as your game improves. And when I say as improves, it may be years before you have a 12-inch bridge and can consistently make shots. Stop listening to the guy on your team that tells you, the reason you can't draw the ball is because your bridge is too short. He has no idea what he's talking about. Okay, I have a pretty decent draw shot. I can do it with a 2-inch bridge. I can do it with a 22-inch bridge. The power comes from hitting the ball well. If your bridge is too long, you're not hitting the ball well, and it's also the reason a lot of you are miscuing. You're not chalking up enough. If you're using cheap chalk, why is it free? Because it's not that great. It's messy, it doesn't stay on the tip very long, but it is popular. Why? Because cheap things are popular. This is some of the best chalk on the earth. There are 3 or 4 brands that make very high-end, what we call premium chalk. If you're using one of those brands, the chalk is staying on your tip much longer than the guy using Masters. Now, I'm not telling you guys to go out and buy premium chalk. Now, those of you using premium chalk, you could get away with a lot of shots before you need to chalk up again. But we also should be chalking up after every shot. It should be part of your pre-shot routine. Last 2 fundamental issues I'm going to touch on here is body movement. If you are moving your body during your shot, you're playing this 8-ball, you get down on the shot, and your entire body is moving during the shot, whether it is towards the shot or sideways or up or anything like that, that is something you need to work on fixing. It only takes millimeters to hit that ball in the wrong place. And if you're moving 2 inches during your shot, you're going to definitely be off a couple millimeters. Stay down, stay still, follow through. Screen time. As I mentioned earlier, the best and worst thing to happen to pool is the amount of information you have out there. Stop wasting your time trying to figure out some trick shot or some drill that some guy with a phone and a table and an APA 5 is putting on YouTube, and you're trying to follow his instruction. How about you follow the instruction of the people that do this for a living? I'm not saying there's not some guys out there that aren't professional players and aren't professional coaches that do have some good information. There's a couple channels that I love, and the guy's got a 9 to 5 in the meantime, right? Or he's retired. But for the most part, if he looks like just some guy with a phone and a table, and he's giving you information as far as what you should be doing, you might want to look a little further. Your time is a lot more valuable than that. We talked about this before, but it's been a while, so I'm going to mention it here. There's a thing called vicarious exhaustion and mirroring. Mirroring is when you see somebody do something and you see them do it enough and then you start doing it. This is what you get when you watch videos of subpar amateur players playing, even when you're at the game. I hear the complaint all the time from a lot of my students. Bryan, I have to watch the game. I'm the team coach. I'm the team captain. I have to watch the game, and I'm watching a lot of bad pool. I understand those situations. You don't have a lot of choices. But most of you have the ability to choose not to watch bad players, whether it's on video or in person. Stop doing it. Even if you like the commentary, even if you like the instruction, you are poisoning your mind. Watch the few out there that are clearly the best at instruction and clearly professionals at giving advice on this thing, because you wouldn't take a lot of advice from some of these guys on how to tie your shoes, but then you're running around trying to do what he did on Instagram on a shot that you will never take in your life. Come on now. I'm just talking to the people that want to improve their game. Be careful of where you get your information. And there's a lot of information that sounds smart, and guess what? That guy is in the business of sounding smart, not in the business of playing pool. That is another tragic thing that happens on YouTube. So be careful on both ends. Let's look at something else. While we're on the subject of bad information, I should make the point that there are a number of ways to do some things. And there are a number of ways that people seem to think that those things are a religion. I'll hear people all the time saying, okay, you need to have a pause on your backstroke here and maybe count to 2 before you execute the shot and all of this. Well, let's address the pause for a second. Have you ever seen a professional pool match? There are guys that have a 2-second pause. There's guys that have 0 pause. You can have a perfect pool shot without pausing at the cue ball, on your backstroke, on anywhere. What is most important is that the execution of your shot is accurate, straight, you stay down, your cue is moving straight during the shot, you're staying down on the shot, your body movement is still. I don't care if you have a pause or you don't have a pause. I don't care if you have 1 warm-up stroke or 50 warm-up strokes. Those are the things that are important, And I'll tell you something very honestly, there's a lot of your favorite players that if they pause for a second on their backstroke, they're going to miss cue every time they hit the ball because it is not a natural part of their game. If you watch FX Billiards, you've been watching FX Billiards for a while, finish this sentence. Playing is not what? Playing is not practice. It's not practice. I have a good friend that I play sets, races to 10, 8-ball. We sometimes play 3 sets. How long does that take? 6, 7 hours. How much practice did we get in? Well, I shot in a lot of balls, but he's a little bit below me. He started many, many years, decades later than I did in the game, so he spends a lot of time watching me play. Now, is he getting better from all this time sitting and watching me shoot balls off? Absolutely. He's learning more about position play. He's learning more about pace. He's learning about some of the strategies that I'll use, and he is getting better. But at the same time, there are certain things that aren't improving. He is not putting in reps if he's standing around watching me run a rack. Just like I'm not putting in reps if I stand around watching him running racks. And yes, he does run some racks every now and then. So what is playtime worth? If you're playing with someone better than you and they are coaching you a little bit along the way, or you learn something by watching their patterns or whatever, you absolutely will benefit from playing that person. Plus, it's good to get the resistance and the pressure of having to win or trying to win. So yes, there's benefits to playing, absolutely. But it does not correlate one-for-one with doing drills or flat-out practice when you're on the table by yourself. Now, I personally credit myself for about 50% of the time that I spend playing. So in other words, if I play for 5 hours, I consider I got 2.5 hours of practice. If I was playing a world-class player for 5 hours and I'm standing around watching them running a 3-pack, 4-pack, or 5-pack, I'm probably going to credit myself with about 10 minutes of practice because I'm not on the table. But if you're playing someone that is of equal ability or you're putting in the most time on the table, you can credit yourself with getting in X hours of play and practice. I've seen some really good, intelligent, world-class, well-known instructors say it's about a 3-to-1 ratio. I use 50% unless I'm playing somebody that's much better than me, and then that number actually drops. So 3 hours of play only equals maybe an hour of practice simply because I might not be on the table as long. So this is Matt. Matt K wants to have a 7-foot draw shot. He wants to get down on that 7-ball and power back all the way down here. But he can't do it. Why? Why can't he do it? He can't shoot a 6-inch, 8-inch, 12-inch, or 14-inch draw shot, but he wants that shot. Stop skipping skills. The difference between where you are right now, if you only have a 12-inch draw shot, you're hitting the ball too hard because you're hitting it too high. Watch our videos on how to shoot a successful draw shot. But if you don't have a decent, short, mid-range draw shot, stop wasting everybody's time with a 7-foot draw shot. Guys, work your way up. Stop trying to do things that you can't do the thing that you need to do along the way to get there. Stop skipping skills. I played a lot of different sports. Football, basketball, boxing, martial arts, you name it. One of the things that I learned along the way, because I wanted to be good at all of them, some of them I suck and some of them I'm pretty good at. But one of the things I learned along the way is that the ones that I had professional instruction at, I was much better. Even if I only had one lesson, I was much better. You can get better at this game just by having a professional instructor spend 3 hours with you. Just by having a professional instructor spend 30 minutes with you. I gave a lesson the other day to an APA 3, and I told him at the beginning of the lesson after watching him shoot some balls, I said, in 15 minutes, your game is going to be about 20% better, maybe 25% better, because you're probably doing things wrong that you can't identify, and your buddy APA Joe that's a 4, sorry Joe, is not qualified to teach you. Get professional instruction. I know it's not cheap. I'm one of the most expensive in town, but it is worth it. And if you're not sure how to find an instructor, get in touch with us at FXBilliards.com And if I can't take you, I can direct you towards somebody that can in your area. Now, we're in the Philadelphia, New Jersey, Delaware, Maryland area. If you're in any of those areas, hit us on FXBilliards.com, and there'll be a section where you can get some professional instruction. And I also make it to Virginia Beach and Las Vegas to do lessons, so check in often because we're headed to Vegas probably in September. Wow. While we're talking about cost, quality equipment does not mean a $3,000 cue. It means quality, just that. There's some decent equipment out there for just a couple $100 for those of you who don't have the money to spend, and there's some decent equipment out there for a couple $1,000. Once you get past the $1,000 mark, it is very often aesthetics that you're dealing with. But I will say this to you, when it comes to your shaft, you are going to be better off in the long run than if you're playing with a $50, $100 or whatever Walmart shaft. And the reason is because the best players on earth are playing with low deflection. And carbon fiber does not mean low deflection. There's a bunch of people punching out carbon fiber like, postage stamps. You need to get quality. It's very easy to identify quality when it comes to pool cues. They're usually the more expensive cues. I hate to break the news to you guys that are like, I can't be worth $600. Yes, there's a reason these companies get $500, $600, $700 for a shaft, because it is that much better than other equipment. But it doesn't mean that you need to spend that kind of money if you don't have it. But I do recommend getting the best quality, not aesthetics, but best quality equipment that you can afford, and go to a retailer that sells an entire line of cues, everything from $200 to $4,000 or $5,000. Tell them what you need, what your budget is, but I do recommend waiting and getting good stuff if you're going to go spend the money. Talk out loud about expensive cues anywhere on earth that there's more than 3 people in the room, and some guy's going to tell you, you can't buy performance. A $5,000 cue is not going to make you a better player. Well, I will tell you this. He's almost right, but you know what you can buy? Underperformance. You can put a quality cue in the hands of a weak player and give his twin brother a low quality cue, and you're going to see a difference. There is a reason we pay $600 for these shafts, because it hits the ball straighter, the ball doesn't deflect as much, it needs less maintenance, it's going to last a very long time, it is actually straight, it is going to stay straight, it is not going to warp. There's a lot of reasons why everybody that you see in the Mosconi Cup has got a very similar shaft. Whether it's by Predator or it's by another brand, quality shafts do make a difference. Stop running around and saying, well, Efren won this and did this with a cue made of paper clips and toothpicks. Guys, first off, you're getting Efren's history all wrong, okay? So shut up with that. You just sound stupid. Second, what does Efren play with today? Third, you are not Efren. If Efren won the US Open with a cue made of popsicle sticks, do you think that's you? Trust me, there are 10 million pool players. Between the average league night player, there are 10 million pool players between that player and Efren as far as skill set. Stop using these examples. It makes you sound silly. You're getting the information wrong. You don't know what you're talking about. And you're hurting other people's games because you're telling them that they can play this game with a broomstick and they're going to play well. No. What is the most important thing on a race car? Those of you that said the engine, that's a close second, okay? It's more like tires, engine, aerodynamics. Driver obviously is up there too. The tires are the thing that touches the road. You can take the fastest Formula One car and put $50 tires on it and it becomes undrivable. On a pool cue, one of the most important things is the tip. Get a good quality tip, guys. The best tips on earth cost about $30. Why do you have a $5 tip? Oh, Efren uses this. You do not know what Efren is using. And if he is using a $5 tip, you don't know why. And for one more time, you're not Efren. If you can't afford $30 for the absolute best in the world of something over a 6-month time period, maybe consider a different sport, because this is not a cheap game, and $30 is very cheap for something that you're going to have to buy once every 6 to 8 months. Which brings me to another thing. Get your tip installed by a professional. It will improve the game of a lot of you very quickly if you can put a quality tip on there. It's not going to be as instant as some of the other recommendations we made, but get quality. This list included about 20 things that can improve your game almost immediately. Some of them might take a couple of days, but almost immediately. Again, the list could be hundreds of items long, but if you do these things and they improve your game 2%, 3%, some of them are going to improve your game 20% overnight, you will have substantial improvement in a very short period of time. We have videos on many of these subjects. Check us out at FXBilliards.com. Thanks for watching. Give us a thumbs up, and I'll talk to you later.